whales, how they're in a half awake, half asleep state, even when they're sleeping. And so the brain actually fuses consciousness and dreaming together. And it got me thinking about the lattice again and realized the actual reality we're in is rooted in love.
Right now, where I am, I try to be in the intersection of creativity, technology, and youth empowerment, because I believe that young people should be at the core of our innovation, and not just as passengers, but as co-creators and co-designers. And I think it's been a long time our downfall when we would just pass on the bad habits of previous generation. But I think every generation is responsible for looking at what of the culture is serving you and what you just leave in the past. Now, for me, Moonshot is more, because the American dream for me now is more about is an individual success, united effort that we bring together. And when we do reach the moon, when we do our moonshots, whatever it means, we do it for the good of the many, not just the few. But I believe that robots can actually make us more human. Because when you look at schools, when you look at industrialization, we've been making robots of each other.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Love Conquers Fear podcast. I have a very, very exciting guest today. But first of all, I just want to say that I've been getting a lot of love recently for the Joel Schaefer episode number 16, where we talked about the Toltec teachings and lucid dreaming. And Josh Baer actually hit me and Mark Gober up. Mark Gober was on episode 2, and Josh, I think, was on episode 4, on whale consciousness. So he has a place in Cabo, and he was looking out, thinking about the whales and how they're in a half awake, half asleep state, even when they're sleeping. And so the brain actually fuses consciousness and dreaming together. And it got me thinking about The Lattice again, my science fiction novella, and how Dr. Alexander Bliss, around the year 2031, he's the protagonist of the story, thinks of the way for humanity to awaken and realize that the actual reality we're in is rooted in love, and that we're 99.9% the same DNA-wise. And so Dr. Alexander Bliss, as technology progresses, sees that we can really decode animal language, and we start to learn a lot about animals and what they have to teach us about our history here on Earth. And whales are the hardest to decode, and Bliss has an idea on how to decode whale language. And all these amazing things happen as he learns about how whales essentially lucid dream. And it teaches him a lot about the lattice, about consciousness, about this fundamental reality that we're in. So I had a lot of fun with that. You can find a short story that's a derivative of this work, and it's online, available for free on my Substack or my Medium, my LinkedIn, as well as my personal blog at Lucky7. But it's another very fun exploration in consciousness. I also continue to work my way through Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act. Absolutely loving that book. And you saw me discuss that with Amos, who is a fantastic creative, although we made the point in that episode that we're all creatives, including business people, if we so choose, to really create that beautiful culture that we can create that operating system of the company and go on an epic mission together and have the hero's journey. So you don't have to just be a painter or a dancer or another type of artist, as we would traditionally think of them. You can actually create art in business and really do it in a very unique way. And we're going to be diving into that a lot today, because I am with a true artist, a true creative, Yemi.
Hey.
It's so good to see you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're both in the Henry Crown Fellowship, and that's how we got to know each other. And actually, I'm gifting you this book, so I'm going to put it right there.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It covers the years 2030 through 2085.
Okay.
And as humanity unites and we collectively conquer our own fear through love, we find out that pattern has repeated around the universe throughout space and time. But by 2085, we still don't understand the true nature of God. because it's so far beyond our comprehension. But it was a really fun way for me to, creatively work with all of the books that I've read this year, over 50 books, and envision a positive catalyst for humanity because there's so much dystopia there. I was just actually in this thread yesterday where two of my very dear friends were saying, well, isn't it going to be such a negative catalyst? Isn't that how it's always been for humanity? We've had the Holocaust, we've had World War II, we've had all of these horrible things happen. Like, doesn't it need to be a negative catalyst to awaken us? And the point I made to them is, no, it actually doesn't. We're not doomed to repeat the past. We always evolve. There are things that we did in the past that we look at in horror today that we can't even believe we did. So it doesn't mean that just because we did do those things means that that is the only way that humanity will awaken. So anyways, it was a very positive vision of how it could happen. And actually, the first part of that book came to me in a psychedelic journey a couple of years ago as the way that it may happen. So yeah, let's talk about you, the Henry Crown Fellowship. I know that you're really a unique Henry Crown Fellow. I mean, I don't even know how to actually quite describe you. I mean, you're a brilliant dancer, you're a brilliant artist, you have moonshots. Like, how would you define Yemi? Who is Yemi?
I think that in every kind of season of my life, it was something a little bit different.
Yeah.
There was times where I would describe myself just as a movement artist or dancer. Then another part of my life when it was more like a serial entrepreneur. Right now, where I am, I try to be in the intersection of creativity, technology, and youth empowerment, because I believe that young people should be at the core of our innovation and our strive for a better future, and not just as passengers, but as co-creators and co-designers.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about the people? Let me put my opinion out there because I'm not trying to set you up in any type of negative way here. The people that always are complaining about the next generation. And let me just say that I think the next generation is absolutely amazing. One of the things that we see through data is that their social media use is dropping. They're like Neo in the Matrix. They're stopping the bullets. Their alcohol use is plummeting. And I think every generation gets better, but you get to work with them all the time with Moonshots.
I'm surrounded by young people for past 25 years, from community of dancers to community of artists, and today community of social innovators. With Moonshot Platform, we have had a record-breaking application process this year. We had over 5,000 applicants for Moonshot Awards from 139 countries.
Wow.
So I got to go through a lot of those applications, at least the top 100 in shortlist. And then I got to meet, like the top 30. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful, especially because I meet a lot of people here in the States or in Czech Republic, where I'm from, or in Nigeria, where my father is from. But I got to meet people from such a far away corners of places that I probably will never visit. And they are like beacons of hope when I meet them. What are they able to do? But you ask me about what do I think about people who always complain about the next generation.
It seems like this always happens.
And I would tell you something. I would tell you just I don't even need to know what they complain about. It's enough when you tell me people who always complain, period. Exactly. And it's a mindset. I don't think it's really important what people complain about, because you either do complain or you don't. And if you make complaining your sport, you will always find something to complain about.
Right.
I feel like I work with whatever cards I'm given, and I find so much beauty in young people. I think that their level of consciousness, their awareness, that things that were wrong, they're not willing to just carry the culture from the past to the future without their intercepting and redesigning the culture. And I think it's been a long time kind of our downfall when we would just pass on the bad habits of previous generations. Some of the big culture shift was, slavery. Some of the big culture shifts can be racism, can be different things that were part of the culture.
Right.
But I think every generation is responsible for looking at what of the culture is serving you and what you just leave in the past. And the fact that they were doing it maybe more vigorously or maybe more kind of maybe thanks to social media and thanks to the digital world, maybe at bigger velocity and then speed and amounts, which creates resistance. But I don't think it's anything wrong. I think it's beautiful when you look into why they do it and be actually kind of not being biased, the traditionalists that always want things to be the same,
Right.
but being open to those type of changes.
Yeah. How would you describe them as different from your generation, my generation? Like what do you like one of the things that I think about them and observe about them is they're very accepting of all peoples. I really haven't seen this this level of programming that they receive to think differently about people. They really just seem like natural humanitarians to me.
So, first of all, like what young people are we talking about, right? Are we talking about,
Yeah.
I find myself also as a young person, but
Yeah.
when we go into alphas, right?
Yeah,
Gen Z,
it's alpha and Gen. Well, Gen Z is different than alpha, but yeah, and Gen Z.
So I think there are two.
Not millennials. Yes.
Yeah, no millennial, not us anymore. Okay, we're not.
Well, I'm not a millennial. I'm Gen X. I'm 53, but yes.
Okay, 43.
Yeah.
And I most of my friends are like 10 years younger.
Yes.
But when we go into like teenagers, I think there are two things. One thing is I think we kind of left them behind in a way, because it's a generation that has been raised by the technology, the iPads, the phones, the amount of time spent looking into the screen throughout the life from very early on. I unfortunately also have one member of my family, my little nephew, which their family refused to limit his time on the screen. I can see how hardcore it is for evolution of a language and imagination, and how it kind of shifts you that you're not really in a real world. You're like in between. So I think like it's been our job to protect the integrity of upbringing and mothering, and and all of the things that people need to develop as healthy humans. So that was one part. But then other part, because evolution and the human genome is powerful, and whenever we throw it into some kind of trouble, it kind of gets ahead and find a way how to prevail and how to thrive. So you can see certain abilities that rise from this kind of shift, and those abilities I think are really amazing, like in the way that cognition has evolved. We only see what has been like what's visible to us, which is like, okay, maybe the relationships are harder, the physical interactions may be slower, then also because of the issues of gender, I can also see how people are now maybe a little bit more afraid of dating or making the move into saying I like you or I'm interested in you. All those things that I think it's a little bit, it's been crippled through these past, I think 10 20 years. But I see on the young people that I'm serving within Moonshot Platform, which is, as you know, accelerator for the next generation of change makers.
Yeah.
I see tremendous amount of courage, clarity about what serves us and what doesn't serve us, ability to invest into things and not only think transactionally, not be extractive, understanding what regenerative leadership means and embodied leadership means. So those things are really, I think it would be hard to explain to someone in a corporation 10, 20 years ago.
Right.
And I think they will build the new type of companies that are going to be grounded in these principles.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Um, how did you get started with moonshots? Like, what was the original catalyst for you?
So Moonshot Platform was built inside of the pandemic mayhem. We didn't know what was going on. Back then I had a dream and also applied for the space mission with Yusaku Maezawa to go to the moon on Starship. And eventually, out of 1 million people, I was selected as one of the 8 artists to go.
Yeah, I
And
remember when you told me that.
yeah,
It's beautiful.
it was a very, very beautiful time of my life. And I started to travel around the world and see different launches of rockets. I went to Baikonur to see where Gagarin took off. I went to Boca Chica to see where Starship is taking off. Amazing community of, space enthusiasts. And that's how the word moonshot was created. But then when pandemic started, me and our Aspen Crown class were thinking, we should maybe do a moonshot that's down here on Earth. And what would moonshot mean? And it was very interesting evolution of what is moonshot, right? It's something seemingly impossible to achieve. And if you look here, in Austin, moonshot is a very different thing than when you look in Abuja, Nigeria, or when you look in any other place, maybe a global south or America or Southeast Asia. And I realized that we actually are not here to say what moonshot is, but we are here to ask what moonshot is to the next generation. When we started to do that, we started to redefine what moonshot is. And also I started to see this juxtaposition to American dream, because also I'm Eastern European, coming from former Czechoslovakia. And for us, the American dream was always like, like the pinnacle of what you can do when you are free. You have freedom, you can travel and do big business. But I feel like now for me, moonshot is more. Because the American dream for me now is more about, okay, it's an individual success. Like I can make it, I fill in my pockets. It doesn't matter what I burn on my way up. But for moonshot, for me, it's more about we united effort that we bring together. Only then we can do true moonshot. And when we do reach to the moon, when we do our moonshots, whatever it means, we do it for the good of the many, not just a few.
Yeah. Well, that's what this podcast is all about. Love conquers fear, to create abundance for all. In terms of moonshots, what's been your biggest both surprise in doing it, as well as the project that really just blew you away the most?
I have both. So imagine that we created our first Moonshot Awards, and we were thinking about the categories. I remember back then we got our first big check, $600,000 from Abbas Foundation. And we said, okay, we're going to do categories, like a startup, idea, nonprofit. Then we did learning, health, and then we did borderless category. And the borderless category was for refugees and internet displaced people, because we just felt like we can learn so much from them. I believe that extraordinary circumstances generate extraordinary leaders and also solutions. I completely didn't know what I'm doing. We created this category. Now, like hundreds and thousands of people sign up. And then there was this moment where we kind of, funnel that leave you with maybe top 20. And then you bring top 6 to 8 people to the live interview. And this happened to be the first interview from all categories. So it was the first moment we've ever seen first moonshotters on the other side. We cried like 3 times in that interview.
Wow.
It was just so hard to believe. I remember I was sitting in Prague in my living room, and then there was a lot of women. It was about super strong, powerful girls and young women who were going through so much shit and who were just not giving up. And they were now coming with solution to something that should not exist.
Right.
It was a problem that it should not be there anymore. And we had such a hard time, and we were like, I was like having goosebumps. Even now when I'm thinking about it, like what these people went through and what they asked us, and then we showed up, and we continue to show up. So that's like sometimes you don't realize what the world is really about, because we live in our little bubbles. And then when you dare to open the door and you say, okay, I'm going to do a global a project where anybody from any continent, any country can come with their solution to a problem that they are facing, and we will meet them where they are. We will not tell them, in order to get this check, this grant, you need to become a square, even though you're a circle, right? Because that's what a lot of foundations and a lot of this front of the space is built on these rigid structures. So that was one. And then when I tell you what blew my mind, there is so many, but I give you two examples. One, Mateusz Bohacek came with sign language translator, and was fiercely sure that he wants to do it open source. His sign language translator was best in class, most precise, fastest, and you could download it to the phone, and then you point the camera to someone who is signing, and it gives you text. He won the idea category. He got his first check from us for $10,000. He went to New York to receive this prize, and one of our patrons noticed him. It was a woman. She says, I love what you do. I will sponsor your tuition. He then went to Stanford. He got to Stanford. His tuition for 4 years was paid. And because he understood body language, even though he was not deaf, he coded and created a new system to recognize deepfake videos.
Wow.
Because of his ability.
Yeah.
He published this big paper, which was a paper that kind of everybody remembers. And that's when Google came to him and asked him to work with Google DeepMind and sit him behind the most powerful computer in the world. And then the Department of Defense asked him to help them mitigate the deepfake video, kind of the risk of deepfake videos before the elections, the presidential election. So this boy who was like 17-year-old, 18-year-old, who knew nobody, had no connections, just went through Moonshot, and it brought him to actually influence something as big as
That's incredible.
So this is just
how old is he now?
He is now 21. It's very
sorry. I just have to laugh because that's so mind blowing.
It is, and you know, the issue is that we think that young people today are like we were young, but they are not. They are different young people. They are entering the world at a completely different vantage point, and they become genius in their late teens and early 20s. They are there. And I think it's such a waste when we kind of let them become square and fall in line and take the dreaming, make them being rigid so they can be a good function in the machine that has been built 50 years ago. So what we're trying to do is we try to not let them become, how to say, what's the other side of plasticity?
Rigidity.
Yeah.
Rigid. Yeah.
And to create a safe space where they can continue to dream when they get trust, because some of the inventions, and also what they choose to solve. They don't choose to solve things because there is big profit in it.
Right.
Of course, they understand that profit is important, so the wheel can turn, but their intention, that intentionality and the motives behind their moves are just what this world needs. So I feel, even though I went through, art and entertainment industry for most of my life, these 5 years has been very transformative to be in proximity to these young people, and to be proximate to the leaders who are at the forefront of some of the biggest problems in the world, whether it's hunger, dirty water, cancer research, social justice issues, and much more.
Wow. And you just wrapped up the big award ceremony, right? And that was in Prague?
No, that was in New York.
It was in New York.
Every November we do Moonshot Awards, where we distribute our first $100,000 among the winners, and we announce 30 young leaders that we will support for 2 years. We invest about $30,000 to each, and we get them this acceleration program that's nothing like that exists in the world. We are we do it holistically. So not just term sheets and strategy and like this type of advantage in the market, but holistic. So it means what are the obstacles on inside?
Hmm.
What's your relationship to money? What makes you fear? How do you behave when you feel fear? How do you do self-care? Like, do you care for yourself? Like,
Hmm.
are you able to perform at the highest level? Do you even know how to hold yourself together under pressure?
Hmm.
And I think that's so important because, like, this extractive model of using founders to just put them into the grind
Hmm.
until they can birth like a unicorn, and then I think I think that there is a difference when you enter this space. There is a difference whether you believe that you can actually change trajectory of someone,
Hmm.
or if you're just moving opportunistically in the market and you just want to glue yourself to the people who would otherwise anyway make it.
Hmm.
And in Moonshot, we believe that if the right people get access and get some kind of protection so they can develop the right set of skills and connect with their values. We say
Hmm.
the longest journey you will ever have to take is the journey between your head and your heart.
Mm.
And in business, this is like
So
a
true.
forbidden language,
Yeah.
right? So we believe that if you do all that, that young people being at the table, except especially proximate leaders from those forefronts, being at the table and giving them opportunity to lead, will not only deliver us better solutions that can be deployed right now, but also will foster new generation of leaders that will do a better job in the future.
Mm. I have a book recommendation for you.
Please.
It's one I don't think you've heard of yet because these episodes haven't been released as of this recording. But it's one that really moved me. It's by this guy James Doty, although he goes by Jim, and it's called Into the Magic Shop. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's amazing. So I mean, for the Moonshots class, he was 12 years old, alcoholic father. Father was constantly really hitting his mom. He was just really in a horrible, horrible situation. And he walks into this magic shop in his hometown. He has no money, they're on food stamps. Like, father can't keep a job because he's just a chronic alcoholic. And this guy, Neil, owns a magic shop. And he's like, oh, Jim, my mom's in town and her name's Ruth. And Ruth sees him and has this, she looks at him and sees inside of his soul. And she's like, I can't teach you real magic, or I can't teach you this fake magic, with these magic tricks. But she's like, I can teach you real magic. And this real magic will change your life forever. Do you want to study with me? And at first he's like, oh my gosh, she's a witch, what's going to happen? Like, she's going to kill me, she's, I mean, he's very afraid. But he ultimately agrees. And the whole summer, she teaches him how to meditate, to still his mind. She teaches him how to open his heart. She teaches him how to manifest his dreams. And it changes the rest of his life. And he goes off and has this phenomenal career until he forgets to lead from the heart. And it's all the things that happen as a result. But it's a really, really transformational book, because I think it reinforces what you're teaching.
It sounds beautiful, and I can see pieces of mosaic from my own life in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's literally crying in the audible sometimes when he's reading
The
it.
beginnings of
Moves you.
my life were also like
Yeah.
very, very difficult.
Well, let's go back in time because I mean, you're such a fascinating person on so many levels. I mean, I'm just kind of astounded with how much you've done. So let's talk about childhood, and then all the early influences led to dancing, and you training dancers, and I mean, you've done so much in your life, getting into the Henry Crown Fellowship.
So in the beginning, I was born in the 80s in Czechoslovakia,
Hmm.
which was communistic country. And my mom, she fell in love with my father when he was studying um, University of Economics and Diplomacy, Foreign
Hmm.
Affairs. And I was born pretty early. And And it was kind of a weird because there was no black people back then. It was like, it's really hard to imagine because now diversity to some level is almost everywhere. But if you imagine, like, like when I was being raised, I have never seen black people until I was 15, where another family moved into town. So I was the only black kid. And my father,
in Prague.
no, in Liberec.
Okay.
It's a city, Reichenberg. It's in the north,
Okay.
close to German border, the Sudetenland, the previously occupied part of Czech Republic in the time of Hitler. So it's like this kind of a land that's Czech, but it has lots of Germans there. And when I was 4, my father was visiting his family in Nigeria, and he never came back. And then we stayed, just my mom, my grandma, and my great-grandma. So I was raised by 3 women. They were very loving and but the space of Czech Republic was difficult. For me, it was difficult for many reasons. My mom, she was struggling, just maybe missing love. I think love is a big story in my family. I think there is some level of kind of a curse that was kind of passing down from women. I think it started in Second World War, and then that there is these inherited curses that something happens, some trauma, and then it kind of passes down because if you don't see it, you don't work with it, you don't put a stop to it. And when I was 15 and internet came to our school, I started to look for my dad, and I actually, after about 1.5 years, I found a university that knew of him, and I reconnected with him, started to write letters. This is all pre-email.
Wow.
This is all pre-email.
Yeah.
And then eventually I got the paperwork, and when I was 22, he came back to see me. So 18 years we've been disconnected. And it was hard also because there was, in my life when I was being brought up, there was lots of violence and lots of kind of suppressing things. Like, if you're black, you can't hide it, right? So it's like you don't feel that you are different until the people start to let you know, because you're looking inside out, right? So you just feel like everybody else. But when people start to let you know, it can be harder. And then also I'm part of the queer community, so that was another big thing. In communism back then, it was illegal, right, to be queer. And then
I never knew that it was illegal.
Yeah, it was illegal. It was illegal. And so when you then there was the fall of the Berlin Wall, 1989, which was, I was like in a second grade, so this was not, back then was not my issue. But then it takes generations when people have this stigma to kind of start to feel okay with these levels of differences. And so when I brought, and we reunited with my father when I was 22, I found out that there was actually a revolution in Nigeria, and then he couldn't actually leave, and he didn't leave the country for 18 years.
Right.
And
this is why he had to stay.
This is what he had to say, but we didn't know, so there was a lot. And I also found out that he has a new wife, and I have brothers and sisters, and that my closest brother actually has a Down syndrome, and that he needs to also have a heart surgery because a lot of the kids with Down syndrome, they have the misalignment of chambers, which mixes the oxygenated unoxygenated blood, and then I felt like, oh wow. And in Nigeria, I don't want to now sound kind of bad, but like, I think, prefer not to do heart surgery in Nigeria. I don't know, maybe there is some hospital in some place, but when you compare it to Czech Republic, we have one of the best heart surgeons, and you do like hundreds of heart transplantations a year in Czech Republic. So we decided that we are going to try to move them to Czech Republic, and that was my first big project. I was very young. I used my resources, and I felt like this is important because my upbringing was so hard, and now and I also always was dreaming about maybe someone rescuing me,
Mm-hmm.
My father, or if I had an older brother. Now I was the older brother,
Right.
and I was feeling this is beautiful actually, because now I could get to be what I was missing,
Mm-hmm.
and I really wanted to be that. So we moved the family. My brother had got his surgery, and actually, last week was the first week he has ever came to New York,
Wow.
and he came with my father to see the Moonshot Awards.
How
And
cool.
he is just beautiful soul, and he teaches me so much, because there is no, you don't understand true meaning of freedom unless you spend some time with the kids with Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
There is this, they don't have the burden. There's their presence when they are with you, it's like undevoted. The
Mm-hmm.
attention and the presence, it feels beautiful. He's very empathic. He knows exactly what's going on emotionally with you without you even saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit of my story of maybe even why I do what I do today,
Wow.
because I feel like I want to build Moonshot Platform for the 18-year-old version of 15-year-old version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So other young people who are creative and different. I'm dyslexic, you know, just to feel like these are gifts,
Mm-hmm.
and we should not waste those gifts.
Right.
We
Right.
should put them in use, and I think when people feel loved, and they can really produce amazing things for
Yeah.
others.
Yeah. And when did you, I mean, that's a beautiful story. And I just want to honor that at the Henry Crown Fellowship at the Aspen Action Forum, I remember when your dad was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the emotion of that moment. I mean, it really moved me to tears, hearing you tell that story with him there, and seeing the tears in his eyes too was just incredible. So when did you get into dancing, and then that, and then how did that become you training other dancers?
So in the beginning, I remember we were living in block of flats. We call it projects here in America,
Yeah.
and I just always, the kids would come to me and ask me to teach them some moves,
Mm-hmm.
and I never really know where it's coming from, but I just had moves. Like when there was music, I had my moves, and I could dance to anything, and I felt like this is great because it felt like I'm needed, and I can like contribute to the community in a way that is nice. And
Mm-hmm.
because at school I was not really good at school, I was really behind because with my dyslexia I was really
And they didn't
slow
recognize your
slow
talent yet?
writer. No, because like they would, but back then things were, here everybody is like so careful and so they diagnose and they give you the label, and then everybody has to treat you differently. Like back then it was nothing like that. It was just like, okay, you do keep up or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the
Actually, here it's evolved a lot. It used to not be very diagnosed. And, our youngest, Yuzu, has dyslexia. And fortunately, they caught that very early. But it can be really damaging if they don't, because you can think that you're stupid, and actually genius runs in dyslexics.
yeah, believe me, I had all of this. I was feeling really silly. I was really behind in my class. I was feeling like I'm slowing down other people. There was a lot of guilt and shame and things like about it. But on one end, I feel like it gave me certain level of resilience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say this is a recipe for anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
but once in a time, you have people who can actually carry this weight, and who, if they work through it,
Mm-hmm.
if they don't internalize it, and then they do this deep kind of soul work into kind of don't become it, but rise above it, I think it has some level of potential for you to be
Yeah.
able to do more in the end, and also to understand empathize, and understand the connection. Like I love to work with kids who have different abilities,
Mm-hmm.
and it just gives me this bridge.
Yeah.
I find it very fulfilling.
Have you ever read David versus Goliath, Malcolm Gladwell's book?
I know
This book?
I don't know if this book, but I know the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. Well, he tells the story of dyslexics
Oh wow.
and how resilient it makes them.
Oh wow.
It's a great chapter of the book.
Beautiful.
But, yeah, there's no doubt.
So yeah, so the dancing was there, out there on the streets. And then I started to teach aerobics because I started to compete as a sports aerobics. I won some medals. I was like a second in our country. I started even to represent internationally, and I was craving to lead. I was always like, I wanna teach. I wanna lead. I love teaching and I love doing. So I started it with movement, first aerobics, then dance, and then I remember I saved my first money to go to LA. I was 18, and I went to LA because I got
At 18, this
at
is all
18.
happening at 18.
I was so when
You
I was
you were the original Moonshot.
when I was 17, I got my first bus ticket because this was already the Berlin Wall was down,
Yeah.
the borders open. Imagine in communism, you cannot leave the country, you cannot speak the truth against your opinions, you cannot buy tropical fruits, you have like food stamps, like there's really a lot of constraints, and then it opens and then it starts to like private property, all this. So then when I am 17, I'm like, okay, I see that there are some amazing teachers in Amsterdam. So I got my bus ticket, 24 hours by bus to Amsterdam. That's where I met the teacher from LA. She gave me a leaflet. I came back home with that leaflet. I put it on my wall. And the moment I remember I had a calendar. This is the first manifestation that I realized that is happening. And that's the moment I was bold enough to write the date when I'm going to America. I had no money, I had no plans, I had nothing. But the moment I put the date on the calendar, it's this big calendar that you flipping, things just started to align.
Yeah.
Like I remember I got a campaign for T-Mobile, like a summer campaign for billboards, to shoot campaign. So I shoot the campaign, I got my first like $2,000. It was a huge money back then. So I put it to the bank, then I got a credit card for another 2,000, and I could go.
All right.
And then I was in America, and I remember I had this terrible hostel in Hollywood Boulevard. Like a Eastern European kid thinking that you're going to Hollywood and you do all the wrong choices.
Right.
And so I went there, and I started to teach, learn dance. And then when I got back after that first summer school, it was 2 months there. Like I brought something that no one had. I brought something I learned, but in a mix in my own heritage, because I believe that epigenetics. There is certain coding in your blood. It's a memory of your cell, a memory of your DNA, and movement is one of it. Like, what do you smell? If something smells good to you or bad, that's also epigenetics. If the way you move, you can play me a Nigerian song, and even though before I came to Nigeria for the first time, I would be moving like a Nigerian, even though there is this.
Yeah.
So when you then go and you mix it, then you come up with something completely new, especially when you're not academically trained, because then you don't know what's right or what's wrong, because it's always harder to unlearn than to learn. So that's when I built my first dance company, when I started to get attention, then I had my first TV show as a host. I started to...
What year was that when you had...
This was 1999.
Okay.
1999, and then 2000, and then when I started to kind of lead the part of the industry in Czech Republic, and I was recognized for what I do, and I started to bring Americans so I would bring
You were still very young.
the choreographer of Justin Timberlake, the choreographer of Janet Jackson, like the top tier. I would create all this little mechanism and little business around it, so I could bring, because not all of the young kids could afford to go to LA. Like I don't remember anybody else who would be that bold to do that. So I was like, if you don't want to go, then I'll bring the people here. And I started to bring them, and it changed the whole generation of also how street dance was perceived, because before street dance was like, it's not even art form. And then when I did it there, I realized that actually I can use the same pattern in other industries. So I went in, because when you do dance, you're limited by budget, by maybe a choreographer. So I became choreographer. Then you're limited by director. So I became director. Then you're limited by producer. So I became producer.
Right.
And then I was limited by studio. So I built my own studio. So every time I felt like I don't have enough freedom. And that was determining why we got international success. Because I would cancel the limitations above me, until we were good enough to compete on a global level. And that's when we started to win. We did campaigns, big campaigns for like Apple, Google, Mercedes-Benz, the T-Mobile, and we would produce things. And that's where, it became like big, and I started to travel around the world. So it really went up. But then when I compare it to what we do now, there was one really important question. And I think you are following that same path that Taved Hinrikus asked me. Do you know Taved?
I don't know.
He was at the beginning of Skype, and he started TransferWise. It's my fellow from
Okay, cool.
So
Yeah.
amazing. He's one of the leading European entrepreneurs. And one time he asked me, Yemi, what would happen if you didn't do it? I was thinking, what's the stupid question? Like, what do you mean? It took a quite long time before I realized how profound that question is. And also, in a way, it's a question of privilege. Not many people can ask themselves this question. And I started to navigate. I realized that, doing dance, if I don't do it, other people will do it. Will they do it better or worse? They'll do it. They'll do it well. I don't think I was the best in the world. When I started to do campaigns and advertising, I was thinking, I'm making people buy more shit, more stuff they don't need.
Right.
If I don't do it, somebody will do it.
Right.
So now when I'm in Moonshot, and that was the pathway to Moonshot, like to Moonshot Platform, am I in a really unique position to do something that if I didn't do it, it wouldn't be done. It just wouldn't exist. And I think this is a moment, only certain moments in life you can do this, because you need to gather enough understanding of who you are, what you bring to the table, and what's the unique position, what world is missing, to be able to formulate something like that. And I think that search is not ending. It's ongoing.
Yeah.
What is your search of what would happen if you didn't do it?
Yeah. Well, for me, if I didn't start programming when I was young, I can't imagine not doing that. I mean, I was very lucky to have the mom that I had that bought me my computer at 7 and learned how to program with me, and then let me do that without prejudice. All the forces were telling her that she was ruining me. My 3rd grade teacher took her aside and said, all he talks about in class is programming, and he doesn't know how to play football. He doesn't know how to do anything else. He's going to be hopelessly lost in life. And she turned beet red, and she didn't tell me about this until I was in my 20s and I was already financially successful. And then she told me, because she didn't want to discourage me. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I really think I was born to change the world through technology. Like, I've known my divine calling since I was very young. So I can't imagine not doing it. Maybe if I didn't have the mom I had, it would have happened later, but it still would have happened. I know I was born for this purpose. I don't think someone could have taken a computer away from me forever. At some point, it would have happened.
I think it's beautiful. I think this powerful calling is really kind of a compass.
Yeah.
To your north.
Yeah.
If I compare it with my path, I had to get rid of a lot of stones on the way to be able to see clearly. Because when I was young, there was this overachieving in order to prove, your father, your mother, that you're good enough, and all these things. Many people have it. And when you kind of get rid of this, and you get rid of, the ego game and that, you never really get rid of it, but you become aware of it.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like I started to understand. And I also, there are signs in my surroundings when I moved from, like a artistic but for-profit kind of service space into this impact space. It kind of cleared out my surroundings, like who is in my circle, who are the people gravitating in, when the mission is described really well, and when you're being truthful to the mission, and people trust you that's you mean it, right? It's not like you are trying to make smoking mirrors and advertise something else and really do something else. It's like it's just so synchronistic. Everything just works. It's like everywhere you want to go, the path is just there.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And that's very Celestine Prophecy, another book I love. And when you set your intentionality and when you open yourself up to the universe, to God, to consciousness, whatever you want to call that force that's rooted in love, things will happen. People show up to help you, like just beautiful things will happen. But you have to be open enough to realize they're happening, and there could be the answer to the key to your life could be staring at you right in the face, and you could miss it. So you do have to be very open to it. The ego will block it out if you're not careful with that.
I feel like what you say, I have so many examples. I'm a visual person, so whenever something is happening, when I'm looking back and thinking about the patterns, right? Like when you are at the junction, sometimes you don't know you're at the junction. But when you're old enough, you look back at the junctions of your life, whether you say, thanks to this moment, I am here. Thanks to that moment. You kind of can anticipate and see when the junctions are, and also understand if you are at the right junction or not. I feel like it's happening like this. You know, that and when it comes to this point, a lot of things happens at the same time. You know, like nothing is going on for so long, and then like this last week, I had the Moonshot Awards. I was finalizing I'm trying to become a father, so surrogacy, kind of the final step in surrogacy. Then there was my father who decided to come to New York. Then there was like a big production calling me to go and do like a big choreography on the other side of like 5 or 6 things were just happening in one moment, and it happens periodically. It's almost like I already know it's coming, and it's always testing me. It's testing me. Am I gonna be distracted, or am I gonna choose what really matters? It's like, you know, like a lot of sweets around, and you really need to sacrifice, and you need to stay focused. Like that's how I know that I'm continuing on the right path.
Yeah. No, I have many of those moments too, where everything happens in a rush. It's almost like it's been building for that moment, and there's so many things happen for a long time, and then, you know, it's back to the slow build, hitting the crescendo again.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I have lots of faith that, you know, the way I look at that now, walking a much more spiritual path, is that it is walking in God's grace. It is walking in, you know, if you're a fan of the Tao Te Ching, it's like walking the way, you know, that just the provider shows up because you're leading with great intentionality, great purpose. You have alignment to your soul mission in this lifetime. And it's amazing, like how many things just will happen. But you have the free will and you have to act. It's not going to just happen if you just sit back. And when you get in that state of flow, it's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. I mean, if it's what The Creative Act by Rick Rubin is all about, this book that I'm working through. Have you read that book?
I am also working through it.
Okay, good.
I love it. I think it's I've met him.
Oh, cool.
When I worked 5 years with Kanye West and Virgil Abloh.
Yeah.
So in that period of time, I've also met with Rick.
Yeah, you know, have you seen how he listens to the music?
No.
Have you seen that? There's a great 60 Minutes, but he which features him, but he's there almost meditating, laying sometimes down, just listening to it. And they're asking him, what are you listening for? And he's like, I'm feeling the vibrations. And he's like, there's something that lights up in my body where I know that it's right. And he himself does not make music. I mean, it's so interesting. Like he's just endowed with this gift where he can realize something that's great. So in terms of, you know, what I'm working on with this podcast, and I know you just came back from Apptronic where you're training the robots. You know, we covered Apptronic on episode 4 of the podcast with Josh Baer. And it's amazing that, you know, Austin, this hometown of mine, is now producing companies like Apptronic. How do you think about this moment? I mean, this moment where we're in the exponential of exponential curves. There's a lot of fear in this moment. There's a lot of people grafting, the Matrix or the Terminator or this dystopian sci-fi to this moment. It's a huge reason, again, why I came out with the lattice, give a counter to that. And, there's all this fear of job loss and all this replacement. I cover that quite a bit in episode 12 with Byron Reese on the path to utopia. But how do you look at this moment that we're in and our path to what I'm calling the age of abundance for all? And by all, I mean all. I mean, countries like Chad, we have $85,800 per person GDP in America. We're the wealthiest country in the world, but there's a lot of countries in the world that still struggle to even have electricity, have clean water. And I think the hope for those countries is abundance that we can't imagine today in those countries because of what's happening with AI and robotics, and decoding like how to harness the energy from the sun. Just 18 seconds of the sun's energy, the rays that hit the earth. If we could capture 18 seconds, it would power the world for over a year.
Mm.
And we just need to have the material science breakthrough to get there. So
I, there was a conversation I had, and there is so many people who, is afraid of overpopulation.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
now people are afraid of underpopulation.
so they were like, oh my God, there are so many people, it's funny how people can be afraid of information.
Mhm.
I see people who've never, leave the continent.
Mhm.
This has been in one continent all their life. And they see the statistics, how, population is rising in India and China, and they're worried there will not be enough food and things. And then, I have, between 40 to 70 flights a year. I go every year, probably every continent, not Australia every year, but every second year. And I see this vast space of the planet Earth. There's so much space. There's so much abundance.
Mhm.
I just don't believe that there is scarcity of anything.
Mhm.
I know there is enough of everything. The issue is not that we don't have enough. The issue is the distribution.
Mhm. Mhm.
We are, when we get hurt, we have trauma, we become hoarders. We become bullies.
Mhm.
We become, fighters, or like all this is just unhealed trauma. And then the decisions we make are just manifestation of that.
Mhm.
So I think, even though I agree with you that yes, this age should bring abundance for all, should. And at the same time, will we be courageous enough to let go and to allow for things to be shared?
Mhm.
Because that has never been really done really well. It has been done in pockets.
Right.
And unfortunately, what I'm seeing and what I'm also fighting for with Moonshot Platform is to fill in this vacuum of leadership, or this corrupted leadership that we are seeing,
Mhm.
that is really extractive and destructive, and it's not, it's very far from the value based, that we in Aspen like to discuss deeply.
Mhm.
And then, and at the same time, what is the idea of leadership of the young generation? That's also a
Right.
question.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I am covering in the book I'm writing, Love Conquers Fear, which is going to come out probably in April or May of next year. I am writing about the fact that that there is going to be some darkness. So I'm not trying to say that there's not. Um, we have a lot to overcome as humanity, and our amygdala is very strong in our brain, and the reason it's so strong is that you and I are already in the top 0.1% of Homo sapiens, and everybody listening to this is. And the reason why is that for 99.9% of our existence as Homo sapiens, around 300,000 years, we didn't have electricity. Like everybody listening to this has electricity, and electricity is like a miracle. Life before electricity and life after electricity, very, very different types of life. Just like life before, clean water and life after clean water, or life before fire and life after fire, and the ability to cook our food and warm our homes. Um, and so, we're getting hijacked a lot. We get hijacked by the media, which is pushing dystopian to us. It's very big business to push dystopia because our amygdala will react.
Yeah.
It'll crave that. Even though we know it's toxic for us, if we really center ourselves and think about it, it's gonna hijack us a lot, because these algorithms that are constantly being honed are focusing on what's going to get people to click, 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 click all the time. And we're hijacking our bodies with chemical additives in food. We're hijacking ourselves with all types of pharmaceutical products. I mean, heroin is essentially illegal. That's opioids. Psychedelics, which have to be used with very careful intentionality, and I only use them in very sacred fashions. Those are illegal, right? You've got, at least in this country, you have something which therapeutically is amazing. I was actually seeing this chart recently that's showing the effect of a drug on an individual as well as the people around them. And it was showing everything: alcohol, crack cocaine, heroin, etc., all the way to magic mushrooms or psilocybin. And it showed alcohol on this chart as a 74 out of 100. Magic mushrooms were a 3 out of 100. And alcohol was actually worse on this chart for you than crack cocaine. In term, not for your body, although it was really bad for your body, but for the people around you, in terms of the violence that happens. And this is, a legal product. I'm not suggesting alcohol should be illegal. I just think we should be very honest about what it is, that it is poison, and it has a utility. It definitely has a social lubricant utility, etc. But taken too far, that social lubricant utility turns into, not a very good place. So I'm not suggesting that it's going to be easy to get there, but I do think this exponential curve is going to force us to make a choice, to choose abundance, or choose this path through these technologies that are so powerful, much more powerful than anything we've manifested before. It could lead to our destruction. And I'm 95% certain that when push comes to shove, we'll make the right choice. In the lattice, I'm envisioning a positive catalyst for us to make it. But where are you sitting with this in your gut in terms of how? I'm 95% certain we make it. There's a 5% chance we destroy ourselves. Where do you think that?
So I'm 100% on we're gonna make it. My bigger worry is through how much suffering we will make it. Right? So I know that, our ability to survive is huge, and that we, always, also even crisis always generates a hero, right? Oh, it's like, it's always that way. The question is, at what cost? That's what worries me, because I am very proximate to people. When I was in Czech Republic, I would have especially mothers send me letters with their mixed kids, right? What they have to kind of survive from the society, and I felt so sad, because I felt like, it's why is this even issue? Then when I went to United States, and I moved here, and I saw another like marginalized groups who are, and that suffering is still just psychological suffering, right? Which is just, it doesn't mean it's less. But I think we are heading into a space where and this is exactly kind of on my mind, because I just came from teaching the robots how to move, right, and how to be how. So just to explain it, so robot Apollo is the Aptronic robot. There was a first chapter, now there is a second edition, and then there will be a third. So now we're working on the second one. And the second one is gonna be, in the shopping mall, in the factory when they're making cars, and it already has like pretty good ability to do work. The third one will be the one that will be able to be home and help you with stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the trajectory is really exponential.
Wow.
So how it's gonna completely shake up our sense of self-worth and our purpose. Because when society don't need us to do things, physically do things, how is it gonna affect us? And now what comes in play is the actors, the good and bad actors. The reason why I do this work, people ask me, why are you doing this? This is like gonna, be our dooms, because everybody sees the Terminator. And I'm like, who's gonna, if all of you are just gonna point fingers and complain while staying on the outside, then actually you're manifesting, the worst, because you're imagining it and you're doing nothing.
Right.
It's like I think what's beautiful about this time is that we are alive, and we can be hand in hand, the artist and the engineer, the CEO and the mentor, and the mother and the kid in the factory, influencing how the robot should be, what it should do. And that's how we make sure that it's gonna be in service of humanity. And I might be naive, but I believe that robots can actually make us more human. I believe that the robots can awaken deeper humanity that we've ever imagined. Because when you look at schools, when you look at industrialization, we've been making robots of each other. We've been making, like, you come on time, you do this and this much units, I expect you to deliver, this is your performance at this and much percentage. This is robot behavior.
Right. Yeah.
So
it comes out of training people for a factory.
Yeah. And you need to deliver, you need to have like a really precise outcome and output. So I think robots, and also robots, the way we will train them psychologically, they will be, they are the AI, they're going to be the smartest entities, and they're going to be, big. So this also influences your cognitive function when there is an entity that is actually in a physical space. And it can remind you of your humanity, and you can become more human. So that I find really important. But there is also actors who haven't healed their childhood trauma, who haven't, went on this path, and who will only see numbers, and who will only see kind of like that kind of clinical, clean, clear, right? Human experience is messy.
Right.
It's not straightforward. It's not like, if you don't understand it, it doesn't exist. No, you don't understand it, it still exists. And it's okay. You have to be okay with this uncertainty that you don't know. And sometimes, like, the smarter people are, the smarter engineers are, the more discomfort there is from the uncertainty. They hate it. I know this from scientific community and I think that we need to be able to capture when we work around robots, because I think some of the bright and dark, that's going to be the frontier. AI and humanoids.
Yeah. And how do you said 100%. So how do you envision that happening? Like, one of the ways I think about it is that we're in such a pronounced acceleration that, like, a week of tech progress to me right now feels like a year, 10 years ago. And I don't know what a week is going to feel like 10 years from now, but I'm guessing like several hours is going to feel like a week, like, today. And I think that my thesis is it's going to happen both with the leaders as well as the groundswell. And the groundswell is people are going to be able to see, hey, there's this future of abundance over the horizon. We're talking the end of disease, unlimited energy, food abundance, water abundance, desalinization everywhere, like things we can't imagine today. Um, and hey, let's choose that and like really, really also put the pressure on the leaders. I mean, we studied in the Henry Crown Fellowship, we studied Gandhi, this Gandhi used numbers, in a nonviolent way to overwhelm the British. Mandela did the same thing in South Africa. Um, how do you how do you think it's actually going to happen?
I think that the Tale of the Omega team.
The tale of which one? The
Tale of the Omega team.
no.
It's an opening of Ted Mark. I'm sorry, I forgot the name. It's Life 3.0 book,
Oh, I haven't read.
and the
Yep.
first chapter is the Tale of the Omega. It's
Yeah.
very interesting. I
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah.
I don't read much. I'm a very slow reader, but this is my favorite. And they kind of show what happens. It's like a little bit. It's a sci-fi, so it's all
Mm.
about how AI is going to actually dominate, but in a good way.
Yeah. I think
So
it's Ted Chiang or something. Yeah. I can kind of see his name. I think I have this book, but I haven't
I
read
think
it.
Ted
Yeah.
Marks.
Yeah, I can't remember. But anyways, yeah,
Yeah,
Life 3.0.
Life 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there are many different versions of this, like what will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a little different approach to it, and this is maybe too philosophical, but one is I'm a little bit struggling with the idea of free will, the way we think about it. I think is a little bit different than how we think about it, and I think we have a little bit less free will than we think. And the second thing is, I think we actually are manifesting even if we don't know it constantly, and it's this collective manifestation. So, what does it mean? If I start with a free will, I think there are like islands of free will in our lives, but I think 99% is like autopilot. It's like something happens and then we just fall. And there are moments where we kind of are really entering the system to change in the subconscious how the system will operate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we meditate. That's why we have these crazy experiences like jumping off the plane or the big rituals, right? Like a wedding ritual. Or that's where we can access like the deeper core and reprogram. But I think otherwise, I think we are really very predictable. And we see it more and more from algorithms, how they can even choose what we buy and when we buy it. And so I think we need to learn how to practice awareness, like a full awareness.
Yeah.
And then I think that the countries and families and communities who will practice that and will train that muscle and kids will be the winning
Mm-hmm.
because they will be able to manifest for them. And I also don't want people to feel like manifesting, because people, when you say manifesting, they think it's like, okay, you just focus and that's it. No, manifesting is for me is a lot of work. It's like you don't just it's not wishful thinking.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it is like you need to work towards it
Right.
with a belief, or maybe not even belief, with a gratitude, like it has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
But still works towards it, and then let also universe to give it to you in the most unexpected way. Don't be so kind of holding on to that the outcome has to happen through a certain way, like you want it. The outcome happen. So there is like a little alchemy around manifestation. So I just want to put it out there,
Yeah.
so it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like.
Dr. Joe Dispenza describes as well.
Yeah, has a beautiful way to describe it.
Yeah.
So that is the side of this one side. There was the other one, and I forgot what it was.
The Omega. Yeah. The Omega team. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a free will, and then there was a manifestation, and I think that if you think about it, every human innovation, every kind of shift in the paradigm has always started with imagination.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the rocket, first it was a literature. They described the rocket. Then there was a painter. He painted the rocket. And only then scientists started to think about how could rocket work. And today you have rockets, right? Or Julius Verne, right? Submarine. And all this is always happening in imagination. So I think we have to learn how to work better with our imagination and be more intentional about what do we want to imagine. And that's again a little bit of what we do at Moonshot with young people. That it really, if you're intentional, like look at how much we consume content. You know, like all the TV, the shows, everything, and then how much of this content you consume, it changes how you dream,
Right.
and then also daydream. You know, so I think once we figure out how to be more intentional about this, we also will be able to kind of cast away some of the more dark times and invite maybe more of the like a positive future, not to be the slave to the amygdala and to this kind of trauma porn.
Right.
That takes us kind of down into like a low frequency content.
Yeah. What do you think about this reality that we're living in beyond the veil? Like what work have you done to get in tune with your soul or, the spiritual path?
So that's what I think is probably the most exciting thing about this age.
Yeah.
I think like the what we are seeing on the forefront of the news and the elections and and the wars and all that is terrible, and it's definitely it's there and it's reality. I don't wanna disregard it. At the same time, we are kind of being distracted from some of the most important evolutions in science and in human consciousness that could be a cure for everything that's on the front, but it's in the back. It's in the like a kind of in the back end, and that's what really excites me. So how I access it. So I had some health challenges in the past. My mother has rheumatoid arthritis, and so I have high risk, and I had some challenges where I felt like I need to have a surgery, and then I said, okay, I'm not gonna have a surgery because I haven't tried everything else. I will try everything else, and then it doesn't work, then I'll go have a surgery. And I had good friends who were kind of encouraging me, and because already back then I was already traveling around indigenous tribes and learning from how they move, because I believe this is we could have another podcast just about it. I believe that I travel like 20 years, meet with indigenous tribes and see how they move and how their rhythm is. I believe there is another layer of intelligence in movement. And I think it's even more profound than language. I think language is man-made. It's made by the mind, the words, but movement, all this is not man-made. It comes from much deeper layers of our communication skills. Before we learn how to speak, our movement was just body movement. And so I know that I can move certain way, and I can say something I wouldn't be able to explain in 10 sentences. I can do this movement, and I can show you a whole information package, So there is something in it. So I was studying this. I was going around the world. I was in New Zealand and in Indonesia and with African tribes. And then I had this health scare. I started to have some problems. And I just entered at that same level different types of healing modalities. And I just loved it. And I started I'm a little bit of a geek, not just artist, but also, I love all this alchemy. So I started to really learn it. And for many years, I learned it. And I realized how, self-healing, placebo, when you think about placebo, you can take a sugar and your body will heal if you believe that the sugar is
Right.
as a cure.
Yeah.
So where the healing comes from? The healing comes from your own energy, your own body, your own intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's already there,
Yep.
right? The cold plunges, now the big trend, right? Do ice bath. That activates your healing. So rituals in deep jungle are like more complex mechanisms to access that we, like Western Europeans and Western world, we just we are a little bit afraid of it because there's too much variables, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being in the forest at the night with the fire, and it's too much variable. But it's excellent when you kind of enter it, when you learn about it, when you learn about how many generations it's passed down, and that can be done with or without substance. The
Mm-hmm.
plant-based medicine, whether it is psilocybin, ayahuasca, bufo alvaris, the toad frog, and others. In Czech Republic, I also sit on the board of CIRES, which is a foundation that supports research of psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to accomplish after many years that Czech Republic has placed psilocybin as a medically approved substance, so the doctors can now use it. And we are just one of the few countries in the world that this is allowed. So
Right.
I believe in this work deeply, and in my personal life, this has been some of the most significant teaching methods, and allowed me to dig much deeper into who I am and what this world is, understand each other more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've covered how that's been the case for me too. But what was the specific moment, in a journey where you realized what our reality was, or at least you could grasp at it more?
So there was, for example, one experience that was kind of explained to me the understanding of God.
Yeah.
And I have a father who is a Christian pastor.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine in our families, when I was young, there was so much fighting, about like what Bible says and doesn't Bible say, especially about queer people, right? I'm always fighting about the idea that the word homosexual appeared in the Bible in King James translation, and before it was not there. And then how did it got there, and who translated was, and that it was actually mistranslated, and so there is so much. And then people just even Bible, even written text, in a way it's advertising,
Right.
right? In a way and people are just people. So
It's a means of programming.
it's a means of programming. So you need to be open enough to understand that there will be people with different intentions and agendas that are going to interfere with this, right? With this, God's work. And that's something that we would fight about. But then I had this experience, and I I kind of comprehended that the God is an omni entity.
Mm-hmm.
That each of us, we have our personal access to God.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is one God, but there is also God in everything, in every single thing.
It's within us all.
It's very hard to comprehend because there is not even language for it. Because if you say there is many gods, that is blasphemy, right? Towards some religions, they are like, because it's a slippery slope. Because then people will make themselves God, or they will have icons that they will worship, which is forbidden in some religions. So it's very hard. Our language simply is primitive. It's not good enough to fully give us what it means. But when you are in a psychedelic altered state of mind, it doesn't have to be psychedelic. It can be breathwork. I also lead workshops. By the way, in April I have another SLN workshop.
Oh, good. I wanted to go to the last one.
You can come.
The reason I couldn't go is because ServiceNow was buying Data.World. That closed on 77.
Yeah.
That's why I had
Congratulations
to cancel.
for that.
Thank you.
It's
But
amazing.
that is why I had to cancel.
amazing.
Because I was signed up to go to yours at Esalen. That was going to be my first time to ever go to Esalen.
So
actually.
I'm doing another one. It's, I think, 18th of April.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing also a breath work. And breath work, I love it because for people who are a little bit more conservative, who don't want to go, and also it's a great entry point. And with just pure oxygen, you get yourself in an altered state of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
What I love with ayahuasca, what happens is that you, the channel of hear, sight, smell, and taste, they become one.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, I would look at the moon, and the moon had a color, and I could taste it on my tongue,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you have someone playing the strings, and you can see the music, you can see it visually. Very powerful, very important, because it is limiting. right? Our senses were not built to tell us the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Our senses were built to make us survive. And imagine that thousands and thousands of generations, the nature always prioritized survivor over truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, it is us who are hunting truth. Like
Right.
it's so important for us, but the nature doesn't care. The nature is like, no, 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 you need to survive. So this is the window into the truth, where you realize that actually you don't have smell inside. These are organs that translate the information into these subjective senses,
Mm-hmm.
but actually it's one stream of sensory. And when you do, for example, ayahuasca or buffalo rice, it comes together. So then when you start to kind of experience the relationship with God, with this one united sense that is, imagine that you add sight, hearing all together, it becomes super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And then you explore that.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened to me and I realized that I saw the gods of every person in the room and my own. And then I understood that there is this language that your God approaches you through your language, through your understanding, in your own. It's almost like it's you,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the best access that you can have.
Right.
So that would be one of the findings. There is like thousands of findings. In one night you can discover like 10, 20 different concepts, and then it's much harder to speak about it, because simply language, I feel like we are a little bit lost because of the language.
Mm-hmm.
Language is such an ancient a tool,
Mm-hmm.
very, very old,
It's very flattening.
very primitive.
Yeah.
Music is much more, there's more depth and much richness. And I also have to, people are not good, and we should train this to our kids, not to allow language to use us.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the time, language is using us instead of us using the language. Look at all the fights and wars over words.
All right.
Like people don't look enough on what intention is behind the word. They just look at the word and they weaponize it and shoot it back. I think one of the most dangerous things in our time is inherited conversations.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a baby and you think baby don't understand, 3, 4, and then you implement and infiltrate certain codes.
Mm-hmm.
Before you start to wrap your mind around logic of those codes, the codes are already there. They are the underlying. It's like the fish in the water. The fish doesn't know it's in the water until you take it out of the water. And then it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So language is that water for me.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to differentiate interpretation from reality is also our weak side. We are, for survival, we have to interpret very fast and only store our interpretations, not the reality. So we are really actually very bad in remembering reality. We are really good in remembering how we felt when someone said something, or how did we interpret it. But the reality, no. And this is cause of so much, harm in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've done in terms of my deep dive on spiritual text is I've looked for the unity. This is also part of what the lattice is about. Where do they agree? And the area that they agree is the same thing I've experienced in psychedelic journeys, which is we're rooted in this reality beyond that deeply loves us. That there's this force, call it God, call it consciousness, call it the universe, that has this deep love for each individual creature, each of us. And that actually is the world of light and love that we come from. But then here we are in this earth school, and we have to constantly, we have amnesia. We don't have any knowledge about our past lifetimes. And we have to
We
rediscover.
do, but it's
Yeah.
underneath the consciousness. It's like, I feel like we can access knowledge from the past,
Yes.
but not with our mind, but with
Right.
our body.
With our bodies. Yeah, that's well said. And definitely in journeys, I've seen people access all types of past lives. But we're constantly in this earth school, like figuring out how to be a better human, like figure out how to be more in alignment with our soul. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is the journey, right? Is to, figure out how to allow love to conquer our own fear, to get that recommunion with our soul, and then be able to manifest that in others, and then humanity ascends. If everybody's working from a place, I loved what Byron Reese said in episode 12, that if just every single human being every day was practicing acts of love and kindness, we'd be fine. Like 100%. We'd be 100%. We're going to make it. And, technology would be a catalyst to just take us into, places that we could not even imagine today. And we'd get back to, very communal type of society. But that's what I've been looking for in these texts. And then the challenge with religion is there's all this dogma that gets stacked on top of that beautiful root that they all sync with. And the dogma, is meant for command and control.
Mm-hmm.
This belief, in Christianity, for example, if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. And there's no worse way to imagine dying than being burned alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And imagine like being burned alive forever. So that's a compliance mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually not something that Jesus talked about. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you read actually what he said. And, the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita has the caste system. In the Gita,
Mm-hmm.
Krishna and Arjuna, or Arjuna is really asking Krishna as embodiment of God questions on the battlefield. And, Krishna is actually teaching him in part of the caste system. Even though Krishna is saying so many divine things and there's so much in the Gita to love, like 95% of the Gita I love, that part, I talk with my Indian American friends and I'm like, really, do you actually think God wants us separated into caste and you can't move between these castes, or is that man created? So it's looking for that unity, and maybe it's also the way I'm wired in terms of my purpose in this lifetime, looking for what creates unity between us versus divides us, like realizing that you and I share 99.9% of the same DNA. And that's true for every human being on earth. Maybe that's part of my purpose, is to try to help bring science and spirituality back together.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on it. Gosh, I love this conversation so much. We could just go on and on and on. Is there anything else you want to cover?
Me too. No, I love it. I love deep talks, and especially with friends, where I can you just be authentic. I think we have covered a lot. I hope that this will also get into spaces where young people can listen
Yes.
to this conversation. I am, my life's mission right now is really to support some of the, brilliant young minds out there,
Mm-hmm.
to bring them to the table, to give them opportunities to realize their dreams and their ideas about better society. And allies, mentors, allies who can come forward and support us at Moonshot Platform and this amazing movement. I really believe in it. I believe it matters. I believe in active hope.
Yeah.
Right. Not just to be hopeful in my living room, but to be out there and meet and be proximate and learn.
Yeah.
And don't never stop learning.
Yes.
Because I feel like this world, if anything, it's a huge classroom.
Yeah, for sure. Chapter 4 of my first book, The Entrepreneur's Essentials: Practice and Always Be Learning Life. Never stop. Graduating from college, your Moonshot alkalite who graduated from Stanford, that's now 21. That's just the beginning of their education.
Exactly.
Well, I really love all the light that you put in the world. One thing that I want to say too, because this is we're recording this on a pretty historic week where Warren Buffett just passed the torch at Berkshire Hathaway.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote his final shareholders letter. And one of the things he wrote in that letter, the letter actually ends with something really beautiful, which he says, remember that the cleaning lady is every bit as much of a human being as the chairman. So he ends the letter with a deep level of humility and connectedness, and we're all together. But he says that for young people, make sure that you pick someone that you want to be like, and you pick it very carefully and then emulate them. And he is expressing that because, the idol that you pick, that you want to be like, it really, really matters. And one of the things that I absolutely love about what you're doing is you are an amazing idol for these children in Moonshot. I mean, your life story is like you were the original Moonshot child. Um, and that book I was telling you about, Into the Magic Shop, it took one woman, Ruth, to believe in him, and it changed his whole life. And that's what you're doing with yourself, leading Moonshot with the mentors you surrounded. I know the people involved in it; they're absolutely beautiful people. I would say that those children are lucky to have them, but I also think they're lucky to have those children. It goes both ways. But I really appreciate all that you put in the world and all the love you also put into the Henry Crown Fellowship.
Thank you. I couldn't imagine doing anything better. I really enjoy. I feel more home than ever in any other jobs, and I'll do this as long as I, have energy to do it.
Awesome.
Because it's a great place to be, and I hope we will meet next time, either in Prague,
Yeah.
or in Esalen, or in
I definitely want to get to a Moonshot event. I feel remiss that I haven't actually been to one physically, and I really want to be there. I did attend the whole first one because it was all on Zoom during the pandemic.
Yeah,
I remember the kickoff. I watched.
It was our first one. It was with Madeleine Albright.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful event.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a beautiful event. We were all kind of suffering in terms of, the lack of community, the lack of physical contact and touch, the sitting at our homes during the pandemic. But that event really brought out the best in me when I watched it. So I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for
everything you put into the world.
Thank you.
So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Love Conquers Fear. I really appreciate all of the beautiful energy you are all sending my way, all the shares, all the words of encouragement, all the guest ideas. I'm getting so many great guest ideas. I mean, I have a huge network here to work through, but sometimes the guest ideas I get, I just know that it's an emphatic yes. I knew that when Mark Gover introduced me to Joel Schaefer, and there's a lot more of those coming. Jeff Birmingham, who I've mentioned on this podcast before, I'm going to be recording with him in February of next year. And he wrote a great book called The Last Book Written by a Human, which is all about AI and this moment that we're in, and how we're going to get to this age of abundance for all. So he's already become a brother, and he was introduced to me by Patrick, who you've seen on this podcast, Patrick Gentempo. So thank you again. I really appreciate all the support. And the next podcast you're going to see is John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods, who actually wrote the foreword to my first book, The Entrepreneur's Essentials. I've learned a lot from him over the years, especially on the spirituality front and the leadership front. So tune into that one. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Yemi. I really love him. And thanks again for all your support.